What happens when you give a teenager factory support, a famous last name, and a bike that most riders can only dream of? In Haiden Deegan's case, you get 6 major controversies that have completely transformed how fans view the future of motocross. From donuts in a parking lot that led to handcuffs, to aggressive passes that sent competitors into the dirt. Deegan's rise hasn't just been about winning races, it's been about challenging the very values that motocross was built upon. Today we're examining whether his success story represents exceptional talent or exceptional privilege. Starting with advantages most riders could only dream of, Haiden Deegan stood out from the very beginning. When most amateur motocross riders roll up to the starting gate, they arrive in beat-up trucks with second-hand bikes they've pieced together with whatever parts they could afford. Meanwhile, Haiden Deegan was entering races with factory-level equipment that most professionals would envy. The contrast couldn't be more stark, and it's this fundamental inequality that has fueled much of the controversy surrounding his rapid rise. The reality of motocross economics creates a brutal divide between the haves and have-nots. While privateers often work multiple jobs, scraping together cents for parts and sacrificing everything just to afford basic race entry fees, Deegan's trajectory was essentially frictionless. His father Brian's motorsports empire provided him with a comprehensive support system that effectively eliminated the financial barriers that typically filter out talented riders. This advantage encompasses superior training facilities, professional coaching, and technical support that compounds over years of development. Deegan's factory deal with Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha at just 14 years old perfectly illustrates this divide. This opportunity typically requires years of proven professional results, yet Deegan secured it before even competing at the highest amateur levels. While his peers struggled to afford basic maintenance parts, Deegan received factory-engineered motorcycles with custom components that provide measurable advantages on the track. Factory bikes feature proprietary technology developed through extensive R&D programs, creating a performance ceiling that privateers simply cannot reach regardless of talent. Beyond equipment, Deegan's social media presence reveals another dimension of his advantage. His image was professionally crafted from childhood, building a marketable personality that attracted sponsors before he'd achieved significant professional success. This strategic approach to brand building remains unavailable to riders without substantial resources and connections. Those same riders who focus solely on results while working second jobs to fund their racing dreams. The uncomfortable question that haunts Deegan's career is whether his undeniable talent would have flourished without these extraordinary advantages. While his natural abilities deserve recognition, it's impossible to separate his development from the privileged conditions that nurtured it. Many equally talented riders never discover their potential because they lack the financial backing to compete at the highest levels, a reality that would soon fuel even greater controversy as Deegan moved into professional competition. Those theoretical advantages became painfully real when one family attempted to use the rulebook against the Deegan empire. At Loretta Lynn's in 2022, the motocross world watched as the sport's claiming rule, designed specifically to prevent the exact advantages Deegan enjoyed, suddenly seemed to have an asterisk next to it. The claiming rule exists for a simple reason: to ensure equipment equality. Any competitor can purchase another rider's bike for $17,000, approximately the value of a standard race-ready machine. The rule prevents teams from hiding illegal modifications or gaining unfair advantages. When Brennan Schofield exercised this right after a race against Haiden Deegan, he was following established protocol meant to maintain competitive balance. What happened next revealed the uncomfortable reality of how influence operates in amateur motocross. Multiple witnesses reported that Brian Deegan approached the Schofield family in what many described as an intimidating confrontation. This was a multi-millionaire motorsports icon, exerting pressure on an average racing family who had simply followed the rulebook. Text messages soon circulated within the paddock, documenting the escalating pressure tactics. Perhaps most troubling were allegations that Yamaha representatives themselves became involved in persuading Schofield to withdraw the claim. The financial disparity told the real story. While the claiming price was set at $17,000, industry insiders estimated that Deegan's factory-modified Yamaha could be worth 3 times that amount. As former pro David Bailey noted in an interview, when rules only apply to some competitors but not others, it's like playing poker, where one player gets to see everyone else's cards. This sentiment resonated throughout the motocross community. The ethics of the situation raised uncomfortable questions. If claiming rules exist but cannot be enforced against certain participants, the fundamental fairness of competition crumbles. Former professionals watching the situation unfold emphasized that the claiming rules integrity is essential to maintaining amateur motocross as a merit-based sport rather than a showcase for the privileged few. The aftermath permanently altered how the motocross community viewed Deegan. Fans who had previously celebrated his success began questioning whether his results stemmed from superior talent or simply superior equipment that was effectively protected from scrutiny. In paddock conversations, the Loretta Lynn's incident became shorthand for a double standard, rules that apply differently depending on your last name or factory connection. The equipment debate was merely the warm-up act for the real controversy that would define Haiden Deegan's early professional career. While many riders throughout motocross history have pushed aggressive racing to its limits, few managed to collect as many enemies in such a short time span as Deegan did at the 2024 Birmingham Supercross, a single event that transformed him from promising rookie to the sport's most divisive figure. Deegan's aggressive approach first raised eyebrows during Detroit's Round 10, where his controversial block pass sent his own Monster Energy Yamaha star racing teammate, Jordan Smith, crashing to the ground. The incident immediately split the motocross community between those who viewed it as hard racing and others who saw it as crossing an unwritten line. Hunter Lawrence, the 250 East Point's leader at the time, defended Deegan's move during the post-race press conference, suggesting the criticism represented a softening of the sport compared to earlier eras. This incident foreshadowed what would come next, with tensions simmering throughout the paddock as riders wondered if Deegan would adjust his approach. Birmingham proved to be the breaking point. During the heat race, Deegan's collision with Seth Hammaker sent both riders tumbling out of transfer positions and into the last chance qualifier. Frame-by-frame analysis revealed Deegan carrying excessive speed into the corner, choosing a line that made contact virtually inevitable according to AMA rulebook guidelines. The main event cemented Deegan's controversial status when his mid-pack collision with Cody Schock resulted in the privateer suffering a broken collarbone, a devastating injury with career implications for a rider without factory backing. Schock later described the incident with visible frustration. "I was holding my line when suddenly I'm on the ground wondering if my season is over." Meanwhile, Deegan continued his season unimpeded. The backlash intensified quickly. A Reddit thread titled "Deegan is getting on my nerves" captured the growing sentiment, with commenters labeling him an entitled brat who showed little regard for fellow competitors. The criticism targeted both his riding tactics and perceived attitude problems, a reputation reinforced by post-race tensions at Hammaker's pit area that reportedly required team manager intervention. What makes Deegan's case so polarizing? The inconsistent application of penalties. While the AMA rulebook outlines rules regarding acceptable contact, interpretation varies wildly. Critics highlight Deegan's incidents as examples where penalties should have been applied but weren't, fueling perceptions of favoritism. Beyond the rulebook controversies, it was a decision requiring no officials or penalty flags that truly crystallized Deegan's divisive reputation. The Motocross of Nations stands as the sport's ultimate team competition, an Olympic equivalent where riders shed personal sponsors to wear their nation's colors. This hallowed event transforms fiercely individualistic athletes into representatives of something larger than themselves, a tradition sacred to motocross purists. In 2024, when Team USA needed its young stars to reclaim international glory, Deegan made a choice that veteran riders found almost unfathomable, opting for elective wrist surgery rather than representing his country. This decision landed differently than his on-track controversies because it transcended rulebook interpretations, challenging the sport's fundamental value system. Chase Sexton publicly voiced what many veterans felt, stating, "It's disappointing when our top riders choose not to represent their country when called upon. Though not mentioning Deegan by name, the target of his criticism was unmistakable. When questioned about his decision, Deegan's response revealed a profound philosophical disconnect. "I represent my country every time I don't let someone from a different country take our trophies." This statement mischaracterized the MX of nation's collective purpose, equating individual race wins with the honor of team competition. To motocross traditionalists, this sounded like comparing a pickup basketball game to the Olympics. The controversy exposed a generational fault line in professional motocross. Established riders viewed MX of Nations participation as non-negotiable, a sacred obligation to both country and sport. Meanwhile, Deegan approached his career with calculated strategy, where personal brand development and long-term success took priority over tradition. If refusing to represent his country raised eyebrows among motocross veterans, the events of March 21st, 2025 left even Deegan's most ardent defenders scrambling for justification. What began as an ordinary Friday night in Walton County, Florida, evolved into a defining moment that transcended the boundaries of motocross, when sheriff's deputies responded to reports of an expensive sports car performing dangerous maneuvers in a public parking lot. At 9:58 p.m., officers found the teenage racing sensation executing donuts in his Audi R8. By 11:29 p.m., Deegan was booked on a misdemeanor violation of Florida's street racing statutes that prohibit such stunts. The situation worsened when officers discovered fake driver's licenses in Deegan's possession, one falsely indicating he was 21 years old. In a decision that later ignited debate about preferential treatment, officers chose not to pursue felony charges for the fake IDs. Public Information Officer Corey DeBridnia attributed this leniency to Deegan's respectful demeanor throughout the encounter, though legal experts point out that ordinary citizens rarely receive such consideration. The financial fallout was just a slap on the wrist, a $1,000 cash bond for release, potential fines up to $2,000, a possible 1-year license suspension, and vehicle impoundment for 30 days. Yet while these consequences loomed, Deegan seemingly didn't care. Within hours of his 1:23 a.m. release, he transformed his legal troubles into social media entertainment, sharing his mugshot on Instagram with the caption, "Certified stunt driver," set to inner circles bad boys. He followed with a photoshopped image of himself lounging in a jail cell, captioned, "We vibin' in cell block 1." This cavalier response highlighted the jarring disconnect between the professional racer who calculated risks on the track and the teenager who disregarded them on public roads. The timing proved especially striking as the 250 East Division prepared for Birmingham, creating a stark juxtaposition between Deegan's recent successes, a third-place finish in Indianapolis, and victories in Arlington, and his apparent disregard for public safety and legal consequences. On the track, he rode the edge of control. Off it, he seemed unable to recognize boundaries at all. The following week, Deegan dug even deeper into the arrest by wearing a black and white race kit during the qualifier and an orange jumpsuit during the main event. These outfits would foreshadow what was to come Saturday night, as the battle between Deegan and Beaumaire had been simmering for months. What happened at the 2025 Seattle Supercross crossed boundaries few had witnessed before, turning athletic competition into something deeply personal and potentially dangerous. The flashpoint occurred on lap 18, when Deegan, battling Beaumaire for third position, executed what many analysts later described as an excessively aggressive pass. Deegan deliberately turned into Beaumaire, forcing a collision and nearly causing both of them to hit the dirt. Trackside officials visibly tensed as Beaumaire narrowly kept his bike up, with several team members audibly gasping at the severity of the maneuver. This incident wasn't isolated, but connected to deeper personal issues. Days before Seattle, Deegan had been arrested for stunt driving in Florida and posted his booking information on Instagram. Beaumaire then took the extraordinary step of sharing the unaltered version containing Deegan's address, an action that crossed the line from professional rivalry into personal intimidation. The tension finally exploded after the checkered flag. As cameras rolled and team members frantically tried to intervene, Deegan approached Beaumaire and delivered a forceful slap to his helmet. The verbal exchange revealed the truly personal nature of their feud, with Deegan explicitly referencing Beaumaire's decision to share his address as a perceived threat to to his family. Beaumare's ominous response, "He has one coming," sent shockwaves through the paddock. Both riders faced identical $1,000 fines for their actions, but this financial penalty hardly addresses the deeper concerns. This incident connects directly to Deegan's controversial 2023 Detroit Supercross block pass on teammate Jordan Smith, establishing a troubling pattern of boundary-pushing aggression throughout his career. The fallout divided the motocross community. Online forums exploded with polarized reactions, with many fans expressing open hostility toward Deegan. "Really starting to despise Deegan," wrote one Reddit user, while others condemned him as an arrogant punk, sentiments reflecting growing disillusionment with his approach. As Deegan faces mounting criticism, the question remains, will this escalating pattern of confrontation define his legacy, or will we see a turning point in how riders manage the blurring lines between competition and personal vendettas?